4 contestants enter, but only 1 leaves a champion. That's right, it's time for the one and only Project Nerd Game Show. Live from the Project Nerd Studios in StreamYard, it's The Last Word.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to an episode of Last Word. I'm very excited to try something new with you today. We have 7 or 8 questions. We only have 2 guests, and we're going to be doing a 1v1 showdown where they will be debating back and forth, yelling at each other, and hopefully being at least a little bit civil. So let's bring in our first master debater, Eric. Welcome, Eric, a regular.
Hey, always love being called a master debater, Andy, so thank you for that.
So starting off this show for the kids, of course.
Exactly.
And Casey, also a master debater. Welcome here, Casey.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm very excited, and I'm not a big fan of that term, but we'll keep it going.
Have you've done some recording, right? You've been on some Project Nerd stuff before, Casey. Is that right?
I've jumped on the couch at the con a few times and hung out with people and shared some of my opinions. Yeah.
Okay, well that's not going to get you ahead in this game. Okay, we're starting from scratch here. Okay, you're a newbie. Okay, so Eric's our pro. We're going to let you start on this first question. I'm going to do round 1. We're only going to have round 1, but let's have a little intro. All right, so up first, Gamescom was today. There was a lot of announcements. What do you guys think about Gamescom? Anything catch your fancy that you want to talk about tonight? One thing I was going to mention, just a shout out to PlayStation for maybe fixing their PS5 controller by introducing a new controller. Sorry if I stepped on your thunder there, Eric. Go ahead. You're up first.
No, I wasn't even going to talk about the controller. Actually, haven't had problems with my PS5 controller, but so couple games I want to talk about today. Hopefully these aren't the ones that Casey is thinking of. I don't think they will be. Telltale Games is coming back with a fury. Not only are we getting another Tales from the Borderlands game, but we're going to get a Telltale game based on The Expanse. And if I think any property lends itself to a Telltale game, it is definitely The Expanse. Also saw something I'd never heard of before, a Souls-like game where you play as Pinocchio called Lies of P. How can I not be interested in that? However, one game today stuck out to me because it is a game I never thought we would ever see in the history of gaming. And that's the Killer Clowns from Outer Space is getting a multiplayer title. You want to talk about a movie that even some of the hardcore haven't seen. I can't believe that we're going to get a Killer Clowns from Outer Space game, and I'm really looking forward to playing that.
So Friday the 13th really opened up things for this, and it's kind of wild to see all the different things that are coming out now because of that one game success. I did not know about this Pinocchio game. I hope that the more powerful you get, your nose grows longer, and you're poking people with your lying nose. That would be fun. A lot of good stuff that you mentioned there to be excited about. Casey, what do you think about Gamescom? What are you excited for?
Yeah, just to piggyback on the Pinocchio thing, I could just imagine him being doing the Groot kebab with his nose, in Guardians 1. That'd be amazing. I'm more of a casual gamer. I don't get to play as many games, so I have to kind of be choosy about what I pick. I tend to like games I can jump in and out of. The 3 that caught my eye because I'm either going to go for something really familiar or really new. And I thought the Hogwarts Legacy game looked really interesting. My wife's a big Harry Potter fan, and so subsequently I've become one. And I just really like the way that they're marketing it, where you can kind of choose your path a little bit, like Jedi Sith sort of vibes a little bit. And from the trailers, at least, it seems like it's kind of a mix between Skyrim aesthetic with a Telltale vibe, where there's gonna be a lot of cutscenes and probably a lot of licensed characters and stuff. So I think that looks really cool. I'm pretty pumped about Tortuga, the pirate game. It looks really interesting because I really loved Assassin's Creed Odyssey's pirate system. I thought the combat was really cool, and it seems like it's a good mix of that and sort of a little bit like an RTS vibe when you go to the big map and you're conquesting and taking over territories and stuff like that. The third game I wanted to mention that I saw the trailer for today that I know very little about, but it looked amazing from the trailer, was called Under the Waves. I don't know why, but it kind of gave me a more peaceful version of BioShock. If it was directed by James Cameron, it was just an underwater dream. It looked so beautiful. I don't know anything about the gameplay, but if it looks anywhere near as good as the trailer does, it's going to be something I want to put on my big screen.
You mentioned BioShock. There's rumors of a BioShock announcement coming this week. So that would be cool if we got a new announcement for a BioShock game. Again, like you said, there's a lot of good stuff, that things like we haven't even heard of, right, coming out. My concern with Hogwarts Legacy, and I don't know, Eric or Casey, if you want to chime in on this, but it got delayed, right? Gotham Knights recently dropped its last gen counterparts because they were having issues basically porting it backwards to those consoles. Do you think this is going to be a problem with that game or games in the next, like, let's say 6 months to 12 months? Because we are going to see more dropping off of those previous gen versions of the game.
We're absolutely going to see that happen. I also think Hogwarts Legacy, unfortunately, is getting some of the backlash of all the hate-headed J.K. Rowling's way. At least that's what I've seen on boards online. Now, I'm going to judge a game by the game. I'm not going to judge a game by something that the author said. Honestly, delays in games normally mean the game is getting better. I've rarely seen a game get delayed multiple times and come out just like a heaping pile of crap outside of Duke Nukem. So hopefully the delays for
Cyberpunk would disagree with you also.
Cyberpunk ran great on my Series X. I understand
that
everyone else wasn't playing it on Series X, so I get that completely.
Guess what, everybody? Point, though. Eric and I did not have a problem.
I thought about picking it up because I think it's like $7.99 right now at GameStop.
It is one of the best games I've ever played. I don't care what anybody says. I love Cyberpunk.
I have to agree with Eric, though. I think if a game's delayed, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it kind of runs in the same vein of movies, where sometimes reshoots can very much so change the trajectory of a film as far as sales and as far as making the fans happy. Because, I mean, you can see a lot of things in dailies and then you can't see them until you put them all together in the editing room and realize there's some important chunks missing. So hopefully that's the case and not the other way around.
Last thing I want to mention on this is with Tortuga. It's funny that people are talking about that game and pretty much everybody's trying to forget as much as they can about Skull and Bones, which finally has a release date this fall. It's like the game that nobody wanted, but Ubisoft was determined to make. So we'll see how that one all plays out. I'm going to be on Tortuga for sure. All right, let's move on. Next, we're going to talk about She-Hulk. So it premiered last week, and men across the country were shaken to the core when they found out that women get upset when they're catcalled or followed to their car. What did you think of the first episode? Let's start with Casey on this one.
All right. I have a lot to say about this one. So I'm a big MCU fan, huge Hulk fan ever since I was a kid. And I was a little skeptical going in on this because I think having more Hulks kind of cheapens the Hulk a little bit. But let's be honest, the MCU has been cheapening the Hulk for years. So we have to kind of swallow it like a bitter pill and just move on. In light of the first episode, I thought it gave us a lot of great things to get excited about, a really cool new perspective. I think the main argument I'm hearing against the show is the same thing that happened like when Rey was in Star Wars, like the Mary Sue sort of argument that why is she so instantly good at things? I think she's just different. I mean, Hulk definitely was better at launching the rock like out of the atmosphere than she was like 20 feet ahead of her. So I think she still has some growing to do. Whether she gets stronger or not doesn't really matter. I think the coolest part about her character so far that I like is everyone has a different way of becoming a hero. Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, that sort of thing. And a lot of people that become heroes are orphans, or they have some sort of like vengeance they want, some sort of, wrong they want righted. And she doesn't. She is kind of exercising her right to say no to being a hero, which is interesting because a lot of people feel burdened by it. The Hulk himself has always felt burdened by it. But I felt like when she was talking about it, you look at her life. She has a good life. She already knows who she is in this world. She has an important role to play that she's happy with. And I think it was really interesting that she wanted to exercise that, right? Of course, trouble comes crashing through the wall at the end of the episode, spoiler alert. But, and that's going to happen. But I think the way that she brought a different perspective to that choice, that initial choice of what to do when handed this kind of power was very fresh and interesting.
Look, Marvel has explained a lot of things away with one or two lines. And I feel like this is a weird line to draw in the sand to be like, oh, well, they explained it, but I'm not happy with it, right? Like there's been a lot of times where it's like one throwaway line has kind of defined a certain character or, trajectory of somebody. So, I'm okay with Bruce Banner saying like, oh, well, you're just kind of like more suited to the radiation than I was, sure. That's how it works. Like, and I'm okay with that. That's fine with me. Eric, what do you think about the show? I know you're going to talk about the part where, go ahead. I'll let you do your thing.
I might not even get into that, Andy. I'll tell you this. All the anger that I saw on the internet just kind of made me laugh, because maybe fanboys need to take a step back for a second and realize maybe this wasn't written for you. Because I watched this with my girlfriend, and the scene where she explains the catcalling and how she's able to control the anger, that totally resonated with Carrie. It didn't resonate as much with me. And my first thought was, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I can enjoy this as a show, but maybe this is directed towards someone else. I've heard that all of the writers, or most of the writers on the show, are female. Good God, let them have one fucking show. And I'm sorry for the F-bomb, but let them have a show. You don't need to crap all over everything. I do think I had some problems with the writing, Andy. I talked to you about last night, the Jeep hitting the Hulk. I mean, come on. That Jeep would have been ripped in half. That's who the Hulk is. I understand that. I think this show needs a little bit of time to breathe. I wasn't wowed by episode 1, but that doesn't mean I'm not coming back this week to watch episode 2. I'm really looking forward to where the show is going. Why can't someone else just have their fun? Not everything has to be written for the Marvel fanboys. And I think if we're just going to write things for Marvel fanboys, I'm already bored with that as a Marvel fanboy. So let the women have their show. What's wrong with that?
We have had oh yes, look at you raising your hand. First time and already so polite. We've already had this conversation before about a couple other shows, right? With like Miss Marvel as well. Like there are shows for different people. And if we want to think about Marvel like it's a comic book, organization, then this is the series or the arc that you don't read, right? You will watch Secret Wars overall, and you don't necessarily need to know what's going on with the She-Hulk over here if you got a problem with it, right? Casey, go ahead, Mr. Polite.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to cap that off by like talking about the Jeep bit a little bit. I think if he wanted to do something, he could. I think he was more so trying to protect her and stop her, and he felt responsible like a little sister. But I think what he was talking about.
Tony Stark's not around to pay for the bill anymore. He's got to actually be thrifty about things.
Yeah, he's like, do it. It's going to hurt the Jeep more than me. But I think as far as letting people have their show, yeah. I mean, there's more than just, 30-year-old guys that are into Marvel. Everyone loves Marvel. My wife's read X-Men comics since she was a kid. And she knows more about a lot of things than I do. And everyone deserves their character that they can identify with. And I think it's ridiculous that people like to crap on Marvel for being so formulaic and feeling like there's no surprises. And then the second that something is different or feels out of sorts, or the formula is broken by anything, they freak out and they feel uncomfortable. But I think Moon Knight did a great job of doing that. I think Miss Marvel did a great job of doing that. And these all feel like stories that anyone who's a human being can relate to, but maybe some parts of their perspective are unique to them. And that's a good thing. That's growth.
I would argue that they argue against the things that break against their version of the norm, right? So like Doctor Strange was great for Marvel fanboys because it was the horror that they wanted, and Sam Raimi, right? It was something different there. But for these, right, Miss Marvel, like, if you can't see past like, your red, white, and blue, or, with the She-Hulk, if you can't think that maybe women might want to relate to a show a little bit more than they have with, they're not going to relate with Captain America. They're not going to relate with, maybe looking at his butt. I like looking at his butt a little bit though. So there is Marvel will keep doing apparently. This. Yeah. So does She-Hulk. I know that was one of the better parts of that joke, right? That running joke about her. And that's funny too. You bring that up. Wouldn't that be how everybody talked about the Avengers? Like it would all be conspiracy theory mumbo jumbo, right? Like you would never really know the right story. And so like, where did you learn that? History Channel. I was watching Ancient Aliens, and they talked about Tony Stark of, time traveling, and they saw him in the 70s or whatever. Like, that's the kind of stuff that it would be about. So get used to it, everybody. Marvel will continue doing this for sure going forward. After 2 questions, we're going to go 1-1 so far. Really good answers, both of you so far. So we're going to go to round 2 now. And what we're going to do with this one is we're going to kind of go a little bit more rapid fire. So maybe like, let's say 30 to 60 seconds. We'll kind of go back and forth with each other. Okay. Does that sound good? I'm going to give us a break here with a clip. All right. Game of Thrones is back. House of the Dragon. Is it House of the Dragon? House of Dragon? Are you headed back to Westeros, Casey, or do you know that Bran is now going to be on the throne someday and you're like totally out? Or Eric, what do you think? Are you a big Game of Thrones fan? Let's start with I know Casey's into it. Let's start with Eric here.
I am not a big Game of Thrones fan, so I really have no desire to watch this series, but I didn't watch the original series. However, for my friends that are Game of Thrones fans, I really hope they get the redemption that they deserve after they had one of the best shows in the world. And then, according to a lot of them, it ended very rushed and very poorly. I don't think there's anything wrong with going back to this universe. I don't know what they're exploring in the show, but I'm really hoping for my friends that love Game of Thrones, this is exactly what they wanted.
Look, if you largest premiere in HBO history, 10 million plus viewers, there's any doubt that Game of Thrones is powerful, that is your answer right there. Casey, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the fact that the numbers are that high means I think people weren't quite as soured as they act like they are. Or maybe they were in the moment, but they cannot wait to get back to Westeros like me. I mean, I am probably the biggest Game of Thrones fan I know. I've won 2 citywide trivia competitions, like $1,000 worth of winnings over the time. And
Look at you, Game of Thrones champion.
I love Game of Thrones.
Plus one for winning, minus one for bragging.
Right. Well, it doesn't come out that often anymore. But I read the books. I can't wait for the rest of the books to finally get finished, hopefully in the next few years. But this show looks beautiful. I'm glad that the budget for season 1 looks a lot like the budget for season 7 and 8 in Game of Thrones. And it took a while to build the fan base to get there. So I think we might be looking at a much higher quality up front than we had before. I am very excited to see the Blackfire Rebellion. I'm very excited to see the Dance of Dragons. I mean, there's a lot to tell. I wish it started with Aegon's conquest, but I have a feeling we might get some flashbacks since there's no rule built into the show like the other show where they kind of didn't do flashbacks, except for like once or twice through magical elements. But I think the show, like Eric said, could be the answer to our prayers to get us back to Westeros and to cleanse our palate with something beautiful, with even bigger dragons and a lot more of them.
Casey, I'm going to ask you a quick question here that's off the record here. So if this show is as popular as it is, it's doing great. Would you be open to a Jon Snow post season 8 show on HBO? Because for me, the answer is an easy yes. They could easily bring in new writers with the same actors and fix season 8 and make a season 9 kind of thing of Game of Thrones, even going on beyond that. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to explore there, especially since he'd be north of the wall. The wall would be sort of not necessary really anymore. If you want a trading outpost, I'd like to see what the North would look like after the White Walkers aren't a problem anymore, because the North was bigger than all the other 6 kingdoms combined, and north of the wall was twice as big as the North. So if they combine those, the North would essentially be like its own continent and could be a superpower, and that could make a huge shift where this power vacuum has happened. And I'd love to see like the Starks ruling everything from the tip of the continent all the way down to the bottom. That'd be amazing.
All in. I would be grateful for that. Let's do that, HBO. All right, next question. We're going to stick in Fantasyland. Rumors are going around that there are talks of Gandalf movie, Gollum movie, or an Aragon movie and their own solo spinoffs. Would you be into seeing those characters on their own movies? There's no way I'd watch a Gollum movie. What other Lord of the Rings characters would you rather see potentially? Or is there any other series that you'd like to have a character get their own, full story? Let's go Eric first.
So I don't know a lot about Lord of the Rings. I did like the movies. I read the books as a kid. I don't think that universe is oversaturated like the Star Wars universe, where I'm really, really sick of hearing about the Skywalkers. I would love to watch a Lord of the Rings series about some characters that I'm not aware of, because you can't tell me it's just the hobbits and Gandalf and Gollum and that's it, right? There's other people affected by these things. I think there's really interesting stories to tell that maybe weren't in the original Tolkien novels. A Gandalf movie, though, however, that sounds awesome. I'm with you, Andy. When they announced that Gollum game, even, I was like, who the hell wants to play?
Who is asking
Gollum
for this?
Yeah. Who's the audience for this? So would I be in tune for that? Yeah. And I am going to give the new Lord of the Rings series a try. I think it at least deserves that.
There is a free screening of the first 2 episodes on August 31st at Cinemark. If anyone is wanting to go check that out to see it in theaters for the first 2. Casey, what do you think about this? Would you want to see any of those characters? You got your own that you want to see?
Lord of the Rings was my favorite thing until Game of Thrones came out. So I am a huge fantasy nerd. I love Lord of the Rings so much. I felt like the movies were so beautiful because they used a lot of practical effects. So this new show, I'm hoping they do enough with that, and they don't make the mistake the Hobbit films did and over rely on CGI, similar to the prequels in Star Wars. Um, I would love to see a sort of origin movie for Aragorn. Now we know where Aragorn's story ends, but a lot of people don't know because it's like in a deleted scene in the second film, The Two Towers. But he's like 80 years old when that happened because he comes from an ancient bloodline of kings where they live to be like 150 years old, which is part of what makes him so compatible with Arwen. And I think it would be really cool to see him being in that teenage age or maybe early 20s where he's being groomed to become the king. He's Isildur's heir. And instead he chooses to deny the throne and become the ranger and falls in love with Arwen.
Yeah,
I think that would be amazing.
The show's called The Ranger or Strider, right? Like that's
Strider.
the show. Right,
Strider.
right.
It has to be Strider. It'd be so cool.
Strider.
It'd be like Mando, but with him. I think like that kind of like Western vibe of him like learning and taking it. And I think denying the kingship when he later becomes the king would be a really cool way to put a button just on the front end. The other show I would love to see, this is kind of more of a joke show, but why not do a wholesome 90s sitcom a la Full House with Samwise and his kids and his wife and crazy Uncle Pippin and Mary? I think that'd be hilarious. Like I want the intro, the silly guitar riff, like the 80s.
Yes,
I want that
all
would be
in.
amazing. I would watch every episode of that twice.
I was gonna pitch you like a Cheers style like Prancing Pony show where
Yes.
they like it's like the crossroads of the Middle Earth. Perfect. And they just that'd be great too. Yeah, there's way too much that we would like to see that will never get made. So at least we can talk about it together, right, guys, friends? Okay, cool. Tiger Woods is back in a video game cover, which is to me it's kind of a big deal, right? Like he kind of defined sports games for me as a kid, other than John Madden. Do you guys care about him coming back? Do you care about those PGA games or sports games in general, Eric?
I do. In fact, I was very excited to see Tiger on the cover on my Facebook feed yesterday. Not an EA game, though. I think that's very important to mention. I was not very happy with the last 2K game that came out. I didn't like the putting at all. It's all going to come down to the gameplay for me. Was this a smart move by 2K? Is this going to move more golf games than other years? Absolutely it is. People that say that Tiger Woods isn't relevant, bullshit. Tiger Woods sells video games. You put him on the cover. Oh, and they also have Michael Jordan in the game too. And he's pretty popular, I know, as a basketball player, but put him in there.
Wait, so I didn't even see that. Is he's in the game as a golfer? Michael Jordan is?
Michael Jordan is a playable golfer.
Are they going to have like a mode where you can like gamble your savings away?
I want Bob Barker.
Casey, are you into golf games?
I'm not. My response to this question is sort of silly. I think it's good that Tiger is in the game. I think the man really knows how to swing a stick, and he's also pretty good at golf. I think he should be in every like scene where you can see the crowd on the sides. There should be like women like flashing him or like yelling at him about child support payments and stuff like that. I think that would really like make it more immersive and realistic.
Look, the only thing that they're going to do to make it more immersive is having a driving mini game that you have to like leave your house and drive safely to the course before you can start playing. You're Eric, you're totally right. Tiger Woods is going to sell tons of copies of this game, and I'm excited to actually see how well it does compared to the first one, because it is going to be monstrous with him on the cover. I totally think so.
Andy, I'm looking forward to your Crouching Tiger Hidden Hydrant mini game that you just described there. I hope they put that in the game.
Yeah. Okay, let's leave Tiger Woods alone for a little bit. Let's talk about Dragon Ball, something I know very little about, but I want to talk about it because it is the biggest movie in the country. It's very, very popular at cons, right? We were just at Colorado Springs Comic-Con and saw Dragon Ball everywhere. Fortnite is fully in on the Dragon Ball train right now. There's rumors of a DBZ project with Disney. What is Dragon Ball like getting more popular for as big as it was? I mean, are we about to see something happen with Dragon Ball that is potentially bigger than something like the MCU has done? Let's go Casey first.
Yeah, so my son is super into Dragon Ball, and I liked it when I was like 12. Like I liked it like around the same time Pokemon came out, like this anime wave kind of happened, and I was like, cool, trading cards, everything's neat. And I kind of put a pin in it for a while, but it's really gotten huge. I think there's so many anime series out that people are a fan of. You can't really go anywhere and see someone like in the ages of like 12 to like 25 not wearing like a hoodie that has like Attack on Titan or Naruto on it. I think Dragon Ball is sort of like one of the OGs in that regard. So when I watch it, I get hyped with him to see the big fights and stuff. I think some of the stuff that happens is silly, but it's no more silly than the other anime isms, where people like overreact to things and sigh a lot. I think what's interesting is watching it last night, watching the movie in theaters, knowing it's the biggest movie, I was like really like, what makes this like super, mass appeal? And I think it has a formula like an MCU movie does. Their formula is sort of like, let's have a fight, let's have a bunch of silly, kind of, I don't know, kiddish stuff like for the little kids, silly like people with their pants down and like eating like noodles like in a fast way, and then they'll have
My
a fight where
kids
they
don't like
lose.
things where people have their pants down, but continue, Casey.
There's a silly like guy that like he loses his pants in the movie. It's real ridiculous.
Look,
but
you're just digging yourself a deeper hole. Continue without the pants talk.
okay. Well, basically they'll fight, they'll lose, they'll power up like an MCU movie a lot of the time. And then after they power up, they finish the big battle, which is usually like insane and like 30 minutes long. And then they end with a few quips and, they walk off in the sunset. I think Dragon Ball follows everything we love about comics. It just looks different and it sounds a little different, but it has all the same elements. And that's why it's really resonating with people that are young, just like comic books and stuff resonated with us when we were young.
Yep. Eric, thoughts? Dragon Ball?
Never been into Dragon Ball, but like Casey, my nephew loves it. I've gone to see the movies with him in the theater. I still don't understand it. I still don't think it's great, but you know what? Just like She-Hulk, it's not up to me because a lot of people really think it's cool. It really resonates with them. And there's a lot worse shit they could be watching. So
yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, bring on more Dragon Ball. Fantastic. Do I think it's going to be as big as Marvel? Maybe not, but kids, they seem for whatever reason to love it. And in my old age, maybe I'm not supposed to understand it. Maybe that's what makes it cool. No problem with it, though. The fact, though, that it's the #1 movie in America tells me there is not a lot of movies out this year. Yeah. It just like everything this year. There haven't been a lot of video games. There haven't been a lot of movies. And but go Dragon Ball. Fantastic.
So, yeah, it seems like younger generation really like, super into Dragon Ball, right? My son maybe start watching it too. I don't know if I'll ever get into it though. And hopefully if Disney makes it good enough, I will watch. Now, one question I wanted to ask you both before we go to the next question here, related to Dragon Ball. Is Dragon Ball right now more popular than Iron Man was going into when Iron Man debuted in the theaters?
Yes.
Absolutely, especially worldwide.
So then, who knows what could happen with Dragon Ball? It could be one of the biggest things we've ever seen and change the landscape of movies yet again. All right.
It's a global market.
Last question before we go into our final round here. Now we're tied right now at 3 apiece, and so this will break the tie going into the final round. Will you buy Last of Us Part 1 again? We've had this conversation now with Skyrim how many times? 5, 6, 7 times. And Sony has put a ton of money into essentially redoing Last of Us Part 1 from the ground up yet again. What am I missing here? Why would I buy this game, Eric?
I was skeptical until I saw the pictures of the remaster. I think it looks good. To answer your question, though, will I drop $70 for that on launch day? No. I've seen the story before. When it drops down to $40 a couple months later, will I pick it up? Probably. I love the original game. I think it was great. I think it's too soon to be remaking The Last of Us Part 1 when there's a lot of other properties that could have taken that love and taken that attention and done a lot more with it. You can make The Last of Us 3. The Last of Us is going to print money. That's just how it's going to work. So will I be buying it launch day? I will not be buying it launch day. When it goes on sale, I probably will pick it up.
You know what game I wish they would have redone instead is Uncharted 1. I would have eaten up an Uncharted reboot just because that's like I'm looking for adventure game. I like adventure games. Casey, what do you think? You gonna buy Last of Us Part 1?
I thought it was weird they were remastering it again, until I remembered that they're making like a show about it. So I think this is more of like a coordinated attack on people's wallets.
So
Play
so
off
what you're saying? So let me
nostalgia.
add. So you're saying like, okay, look, we could market our movie for like 50 million or our show, or we could spend 30 million, redo the game, make a bunch of money on it, and also market ourselves, right?
Yeah, I think it'll get a lot of first time players to play it if they like the show. I mean, sometimes, games make people watch shows. Some shows make people play games. I think they're betting on that the pop culture saturation of that name, that brand, will lead to even more sales, and it's probably worth it to them. But yeah, there's a handful of games from like PlayStation 2 that, like the original Star Wars Battlefronts, for instance, that I would love to play. I would pay $70 a piece if they put that in the PlayStation Store tomorrow, but they won't do it. So
Give
All
me
right.
Chrono Trigger. The
Chrono
best
Trigger was
RPG of
such
all
an
time
awesome game.
has never been remade.
You know what game I also like is honorable mention? Do you remember Time Splitters? Did you ever play that?
Hell
Time
yes.
Splitters. Fun game. Would love another version of that too.
I want the Lord
Uh,
of the Rings movies from the games that were on PS2. Those games
all
were
of
amazing.
all of this talk is just making me sad that Saints Row sucks. So let's move on to our final question. We'll give us a little break here. Final round. Let's go. Okay, so we are going to come back to She-Hulk for this final question. And right now, Eric is up. He's up, let's see. He's up by 1 point, right? It's 4-3. So we're getting to the actual Daredevil preview in She-Hulk. Right? We know it's coming. It's been all over the place. It's been very hype. I do not think that people are going to like the yellowish, goldish new look for Daredevil, especially with what they're used to. So I want to know firstly, if you agree with me or not. Outside of Daredevil, though, I want to know what MCU hero needs their Edna mode rebrand, right? Like what's a hero right now that we see all the time that they could absolutely use a new outfit or a new look or a new push in a different direction? Let's start with Eric.
Wow, that's a hard question, Andy. I think if it's written well and shot well, I think the yellow costume flies. Would it be my choice for Daredevil? No. I really like the costume that they used in the Netflix series. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I think She-Hulk lends itself to maybe a more colorful Daredevil costume. You got the right actor. You got Charlie Cox playing him. I think it's going to work. As far as what hero needs an Edna remake, only because I just want to see it back in the MCU. Can we get Wolverine maybe a little bit different? We've seen the brown, we've seen the yellow, we've seen the Logan costume. Give us a little bit different Wolverine. We know the X-Men are coming. We just don't know when. And hell, just redo the whole X-Men. Just make them awesome again. That's going to be my vote.
All in on that. Casey, what do you think?
Yeah, as far as the Daredevil costume, I think we're building towards, the Netflix version, the red on black, kind of gritty, awesome street level version. But I do like that Marvel always takes the time, Marvel proper, I should say, always takes the time to give at least a little bit of love to the original costumes. I mean, people were saying the same thing when they saw like the WandaVision costumes, and then they realized it was the Halloween episode. They find cool ways to give us those originals, even though they look a little silly and dated compared to the upgraded modern version. So I think it's a cool nod, but I think he'll be wearing that red suit in no time. As far as people that need a makeover, I have two. One's kind of more of an emotional reason, and one's just because he deserves it. The first one I'll say is Yelena, because all I've really seen her in is kind of like the white suit or just kind of basic suits. And I think that the whole point of the Black Widow movie was to get rid of that whole system where these girls are taken advantage of and made into Black Widows. So I would like her to find a way to make a really cool personalized suit that's still functional, and she loves pockets, so lots and lots of pockets, and maybe some kind of cool taser related weapon that's reminiscent of her big sister. The other character I think desperately needs one is Wong, because he's the sorcerer supreme now, and he's not dripping in swagoo. Like I want him like laced up to the nines with some kind of
Definitely
cool
not.
collar, and he deserves it. Plus, he's in like every single Marvel thing right now. So if it was a great new costume, we get to see it a lot.
I could not agree more with you on those. I think that's really, really good picks. I wonder what Wong's like outfit would be, like what his done up would be? Do you think he would just wear like a cool cape like Doctor Strange? I feel like he'd just copy Doctor Strange at least out of the gate, right?
Like a mix between the ancient one, Doctor Strange, and like I don't know, like Pai Mei from Kill Bill.
Honestly, Wong probably doesn't even care. If we're being truthful, he probably does not care at all. So you know what, Casey, you did really, really well today. But unfortunately, the first episode, if you've ever won a city trivia championship for Game of Thrones, you can't win your first episode. That's in the bylaws I've created for this game. So Eric is our champion today. Eric, let me get you a little fancy song here for your championship. Go ahead, Eric. Talk about what you want to talk about.
So Project Nerd has a new show coming out. I don't know when. It's called E-Play. It's awesome. There's some really cool people behind that. Also, Colorado Festival of Horrors coming up September 9th through September 11th. Yours truly will be hosting some panels there. So if you're up in the Denver area at Colorado Festival of Horror, look me up. I'd love to have a beer with you.
I'm going to add before we take off. Not the champion, but I will let you plug something.
I got nothing to plug. You guys stay busy. I'm just a nobody hanging out with you guys.
All right. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for coming on the show. It was a lot of fun, as always. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye. Really, really good. Thank you for everything.